December 1971. This is when the third war was fought between India and Pakistan. During this war, a remarkable battle took place in the desert of Rajasthan around a small border town called Longewala. On the night of December 4th, 1971, a large Pakistani armored infantry force advanced across the international border with the objective of capturing the town of Ramgarh and then Jaisalmer. This video goes into the details of what transpired on the night of December 4th, 1971 and the days after that. In 1971, after continued problems in East Pakistan and the number of migrants entering into India on its eastern border, both India and Pakistan were slowly inching towards a war. By the last week of November 1971, it was clear that an all-out conflict was inevitable. Yahya Khan, the then president of Pakistan, followed the security doctrine of his predecessor, Field Marshal Ayub Khan. The defense of East Pakistan lies in the west. What does that mean? Since Pakistan's military position on the eastern theatre was considerably weaker compared to the Indian military strength in the region, Pakistan's policy was to concentrate their war effort on its western front, where both the sides had parity of military strength. This policy made the assumption that an open conflict with India would not last very long due to international pressure. So the objective on the western front should be to occupy a large portion of the Indian territory, which can then be used as a bargaining tool in the post-war negotiations to make up for the losses in the east. Pakistan planners proposed conducting a lightning campaign deep into western and northern parts of India, catching the Indian defenses by surprise, making major territorial gains on the front, and thereafter digging in and consolidating their positions. Multiple thrust points were identified on the northern and western borders of India. They also identified a major vulnerability to this plan. The town of Rahim Yar Khan, which was close to the Indian border, formed a critical communication center for the Pakistan forces. This made it a crucial link to Pakistan armed forces' logistical needs in the war. The fall of Rahim Yar Khan to the Indian forces would cut off the rail and road link between Karachi and the north parts of Pakistan, starving Pakistan's forces of much needed fuel and ammunition during their offensives. The Indian military's overall strategy was to focus most of its forces on the eastern theatre, with the objective of making quick gains in the region and isolating Dhaka as soon as possible. On the western front, the Indian military was to take a defensive posture with the objective of blocking any attempts of ingress from the Pakistani side into its territories. It was clear to the Indian military planners that there would be considerable pressure from the international community on ending the war as quickly as possible, so it had to achieve its objectives in a very short span of time. As a result, the offensive on the eastern side had to be significantly superior compared to the enemy's defenses in the region. On the western side, knowing the importance of Rahim Yar Khan as a logistical hub for the Pakistani side, Indian battle plans called for a strike across the international border and capturing it. The 12th Indian Infantry Division was to launch an attack towards Islamgarh and subsequently advance through Bagla to secure Rahim Yar Khan. Capturing this objective would not only limit the capability of the Pakistan planned offensives in Punjab and Kashmir, but also destabilize its defenses in Pakistan Punjab, helping India's planned offensives in the region. Both the sides knew the importance of this communication link and devised their operational plans accordingly. By December 1971, Indian 12th Infantry Division in the area north of Jaisalmer was facing Pakistan's 18th Infantry Division in the Rahim Yar Khan area. The Indian division planned to launch its force from the Sadewala, Tanot, Kishangarh area to capture Rahim Yar Khan and disrupt the supply route from Karachi to Lahore. Pakistan, through its intelligence sources, came to know of the Indian plans to capture Rahim Yar Khan. So to preempt the Indian attack, they conceived a swift armor infantry thrust in the region along the Longewala, Ramgarh, Jaisalmer axis to capture Ramgarh and thereafter neutralize the airfield at Jaisalmer. The Pakistan plan was bold, but for it to be successful, the thrust into Jaisalmer would have to be forceful and swift. A substantial force was deployed near the international border to achieve this objective. This force included the 22 Cavalry with the T-59 Chinese tanks, 38th Cavalry with the Sherman tanks, the 51 Infantry Brigade, and the 206 Infantry Brigade, after shedding one battalion to cover routes to Rahim Yar Khan, one artillery field regiment with a 25-pounder gun, a mortar battery with a 120mm gun, and a medium battery with a 130mm gun. Air support was also assured by the Pakistani Air Force during the operation. The force was commanded by Major General B.M. Mustafa, GOC 18th Infantry Division. Operational plan. The Pakistan side had intelligence reports that the majority of troops in the region were present at the Sadewala post, and Longewala was held by just a BSF company. So the plan was to choose the path of least resistance. This was through Longewala. Their assessment was that during their advance, Longewala could either be bypassed or easily secured. The intelligence of the BSF company at Longewala was incorrect because it had been replaced by a company of the Indian Army in October of 1971. The original plan of the Pakistan Army was for 38 Cavalry with the battalion of 206 Brigade to capture Ramgarh, and the 22 Cavalry with the battalion from 51 Brigade to neutralize the Jaisalmer airfield. But seeing the chances of a tank battle at Ramgarh and 22 Cavalry with its tanks in better state, the roles were reversed. The revised plan now was for 22 Cavalry with the battalion from 51 Brigade to capture Ramgarh and 38 Cavalry to move to neutralize the Jaisalmer airfield. The 206 Brigade would follow the advance of 38 Cavalry, capture Longewala with one battalion and establish a firm base there, and the rest to move to Jaisalmer. The force was to concentrate in the area close to the international border in the night of December 3rd, 1971. The next night, December 4th, cross the international border and advance to the assigned objectives. The Pakistan Air Force assured air cover to the thrust for the whole day of December 4th and December 5th. However, there was one caveat in the air cover. The Assistant Chief of Pakistan Air Force Operations had advised the Pakistan Army planners to give the Pakistan Air Force a few days advance notice prior to initiating the operation. This was for them to be able to activate the airstrip in Jacobabad in support of the operation. The situation before the war was very fluid, and the Pakistani Army decided only on December 2nd to launch this thrust on the night of December 4th. The Pakistan Air Force liaison officer attending the division commander's orders stated that since Pakistan Air Force had not been given enough time to activate the Jacobabad airstrip, it would not be able to provide any air cover during the operation. So air cover, an essential component of the thrust, was now ruled out for the operation. Without the availability of air cover, the Pakistan Army planners had two options. First one, to go ahead with the armor infantry thrust without any air cover. A highly risky option because if the Indian side was able to scramble jets in time, the Pakistan forces would be sitting ducks for the Indian Air Force. The other option was to delay the operation, to give enough time for the Pakistan Air Force to activate the Jacobabad airfields so that they can support the thrust. Delaying the operation, though, was not a viable option for the Pakistan side, since the whole purpose of the plan was to preempt India's planned offensive towards Rahim Yar Khan by launching their own attack first towards Jaisalmer. Any delay in this would have given the initiative in the region to the Indian side. So left with just one option, the Pakistan planners decided to move forward with the offensive with no air cover. The intelligence reports received by the Pakistan Army planners indicated that the Jaisalmer airstrip had not been activated by the Indian side, so no air action was to be expected from the Indian Air Force. With no air action expected from either side, and with the Pakistan Army's overwhelming superiority in the ground forces, the Pakistan thrust had a good chance at succeeding. The odds looked good on paper, so the Pakistan Army decided to go ahead with the offensive on December 4th, 1971, without air cover from the Pakistan Air Force. It was a calculated risk, which proved to be very costly for the Pakistan side, because unknown to the Pakistan planners, a training flight of 4 Hunter fighters had recently been moved from Jamnagar to Jaisalmer to form an ad hoc squadron.